China fires water cannons at Philippine vessels. Hong Kong transgender activist gets ID card. French police remove pro-Palestinian students. More than 100 prisoners on the run in Nigeria. G7 agrees to shut down coal plants by 2035. 2 pandas from China to arrive at San Diego Zoo.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It's Thursday, May 2nd, and here are your top stories. Chinese Coast Guard ships fire water cannons at 2 Philippine patrol vessels Tuesday near a disputed shoal in the South China Sea, damaging both in the latest flare-up in an increasingly tense territorial conflict. There were no immediate reports of injuries in the incident off Scarborough Shoal, one of 2 hotly disputed areas where confrontations between China and the Philippines have flared on and off since last year. Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson Commodore said a Philippine Coast Guard ship and an accompanying fisheries vessel were patrolling the waters of Scarborough Shoal when 4 Chinese Coast Guard ships, backed by 6 suspected militia ships, executed dangerous blocking maneuvers.
A Chinese Coast Guard ship used a water cannon against the fisheries vessel, the BRP Bangka, and 2 other Chinese Coast Guard ships hit the Philippine Coast Guard ship, the BRP Bagakai, simultaneously from both sides, damaging part of its deck railing and a canopy. The task force said the Philippine fisheries vessel sustained damages, including its electrical, navigation, and radio systems. Several journalists who were invited to join the patrol witnessed the hostilities. China called its action Tuesday a necessary measure. The Chinese Coast Guard has also reinstalled a floating barrier across the entrance to the shoal's vast fishing lagoon. The Philippine Coast Guard removed a similar barrier in the past to allow Filipinos to fish there. China insists on its sovereignty over virtually all of the South China Sea, a key global trade route.
A Hong Kong transgender activist on Monday received a new ID card reflecting his gender change after a years-long legal battle to change the document, and he vowed to continue working for equality for the LGBTQ community. Harry Shea won his appeal over the government's refusal to change the gender on his ID card in February 2023. Previously, Shea was not able to make the change because he did not undergo full gender affirmation surgery. Last year, the city's top court said the government's policy was unconstitutional in a landmark ruling, arguing it imposed an unacceptably harsh burden.
The judgment prompted an easing of rules earlier this month. Xie's victory is seen as an important step forward for the city's LGBTQ community, many of whose transgender members consider the operation unnecessary and risky. In addition to the legal challenges, he has also faced obstacles from the government and attacks from others. Public sentiment in Hong Kong has become increasingly welcoming to the LGBTQ community, but many still face challenges in daily life. In April, the Hong Kong government revised its policy to allow people who have not completed full gender affirmation surgery to change their genders on ID cards as long as they fulfill certain conditions.
French police removed dozens of students from the Sorbonne University after pro-Palestinian protesters occupied the main courtyard of the elite institution in Paris on Monday. About 50 protesters set up tents at midday Monday at the Sorbonne University courtyard in support of Palestinians, echoing similar encampments and the solidarity demonstrations across the United States. Protesters unveiled a giant Palestinian flag and chanted slogans in support of Palestinians in Gaza, as Israel continues its offensive following the deadly October 7th Hamas attack that triggered the Israeli-Hamas war. Police entered the university grounds in the early afternoon and removed them.
About 100 demonstrators took part in the protest near the prestigious university amid heavy police presence that was also guarding the university entrance to prevent students from setting up camp inside again. Tensions had broken out on campus as pro-Palestinian students inspired by Gaza solidarity encampments at campuses in the United States sought to occupy an amphitheater. On Friday, pro-Palestinian and pro-Israeli demonstrators faced each other in a tense standoff in the street outside the school. Riot police stepped in to separate the opposing groups. The protest ended peacefully when students agreed to evacuate the building late on Friday. The head of sciences, Po, said an agreement with students had been reached.
The Nigerian Correctional Service said in a press release on Thursday that more than 100 prisoners have escaped from a medium-security prison in Nigeria after heavy rainfall destroyed part of the facility. A total of 118 inmates of the medium-security custodial centers in Suleja, Niger State, fled the prison on Wednesday night, though 10 of the escaped inmates have been captured and taken into custody. The NCS said parts of the prison's facility surrounding the buildings and perimeter fence were destroyed by the heavy rain, adding that much of the facility was old and weak and built during the colonial era.
Prison breaks are not uncommon in Nigeria, which has witnessed a series of jailbreaks in recent years. In 2022, more than 300 inmates broke free after Boko Haram militants raided a prison in Nigeria's capital Abuja. Authorities said at the time that some operatives of the jihadist group who had been held in the prison escaped during the raid. A year earlier, over 200 prisoners fled a prison in the neighboring Kogi state after gunmen invaded the correctional facility, killing a policeman. 5 months before the invasion, more than 2,000 inmates escaped during a similar attack by armed men at another prison in the southeastern Imo state. Authorities said the gunmen used explosives to blast parts of the prison.
Ministers from the Group of 7 nations have agreed to shut down all their coal plants by 2035 at the latest, in a climate policy breakthrough that could influence other countries to do the same. Putting an end date on coal, the most climate-polluting fossil fuel, has been highly controversial at international climate talks. According to the climate think tank Amber, Japan, which derived 32% of its electricity from coal in 2023, has blocked progress on the issue at past G7 meetings. Many of the other G7 nations already have national plans in place to phase out the fossil fuel. Around 16% of the G7's electricity comes from coal.
The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency announced new rules that will require coal-fired power plants to either capture nearly all of their climate pollution or shut down by 2039. Fossil fuels are the main cause of the climate crisis. Almost every country in the world agreed last year to transition away from fossil fuels at the COP28 climate talks in Dubai. But failing to put an end date on coal was seen as a shortcoming of those negotiations. The G7, made up of Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom and the United States, with the European Union as a member with special status, typically leads on global climate policy. The group's decisions often trickle down or influence the wider G20, which includes other big emitters, like China and India, as well as major fossil fuel producers, such as Saudi Arabia and Russia.
A pair of giant pandas are set to travel from China to the San Diego Zoo this summer, marking the first time the Southern California Wildlife Facility will house giant pandas since 2019. On Monday, the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance announced that care team leaders recently traveled to meet the 2 giant pandas, Yunchuan and Xingbao, ahead of their journey to San Diego. Vice President of Conservation Science at San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance, Dr. Megan Owen, said in a press release, "It was an honor to see Yunchuan and Xingbao in person and meet our conservation partners, caring for them at the Wolong and Bifengxia panda bases."
According to the release, the exact date of the pandas' arrival at the San Diego Zoo has not been announced, but the Alliance is looking forward to a prospective arrival this summer. The San Diego Zoo has a long-standing partnership with leading conservation institutions in China to transport, care for and research giant pandas that spans nearly 3 decades. Dubbed Panda Diplomacy, the China Wildlife and Conservation Association has transported pandas to U.S. facilities since 1972. The main focus of research includes giant panda reproductive behavior and physiology, nutritional requirements, and habitat needs. According to the World Wildlife Fund, WWF, giant pandas are the rarest member of the bear family and among the world's most threatened animals.
The answer for Tuesday is D, dividends. Steps taken now to maximize your health will pay dividends later on. Did you answer correctly? Now let's delve into the news of China fires water cannons at Philippine vessels. Number 1, confrontation, 对抗对峙冲突. She wanted to avoid another confrontation with her father. Number 2, patrol, 巡逻巡查. Troops patrol the border day and night. Number 3, sustain, 遭受蒙受经受. The company sustained losses of millions of dollars. Next, we have a multiple choice question for everyone to practice. Which answer would you choose? You can write your answer in the comment section. The correct answer will be announced tomorrow. And that's all for today's Funday News. Be sure to tune into Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I'll see you next time.